Welcome to Science Sci-Fi, connecting the public to science and technology through storytelling. My name is Ronald Friedman. I'm a science fiction writer. Since the dawn of human civilization, we were inspired by the quest of immortality and eternal youth. But now, with new advances in medical science developments, this quest is on the verge of becoming a reality. In this video, we will explore if humans in the past indeed seek immortality. Will biological immortality will indeed be possible in the not too far future? And what are the challenges? Stay tuned. Biological immortality. We'll start with the agenda, what we're going to have today. First, we're going to explore, do we as humans really want biological immortality? We're going to explore that through stories in antiquity, in biblical time, and classical time, Middle Ages, and even Renaissance. And then we're going to talk about science fiction story and fantasy story from current days, present day, 21st century. Then we're going to talk about why invest in lifespan and healthspan. Why do we want to live longer, healthier life? And then we're going to talk about the longevity escape velocity. It's basically, do we, people who are alive today, even have a chance to live for a very, very long time? Then we're going to talk about political and cultural resistance. Quite a lot of people think this may not be a good idea. So what is the logic behind that? And then if you do choose to fight aging and try to become younger, what step you can take and what kind of organization are there to fight aging that you can assist. So let's go on with the agenda. The quest for immortality and eternal youth in antiquity, in ancient time. Even in the origin story of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the Bible, have a story about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and in it they had this tree of life. And there are two trees, the tree of life and tree of knowledge, and they are debating if God of course prohibited humans from and eating any of the fruit of any of the tree, but humans had the ability, Adam and Eve had the ability to try or steal the fruit from the tree of life and live forever. So the inspiration to live forever only exists in the Bible. Also, the first patriarch from Seth, Adam, Seth, all the other patriarchs up to the time of Noah lived to a very long time, up to 1,000 years. The longest one is Methuselah, that lived for 969 years, and Noah himself lived for 950 years. And after the flood, after the story of Noah, then the top life expectancy in the Bible was 120 years as Moses lives, and people were not able to live anymore, something like 1,000 years. So the Bible was very pro-life extension. Other epic stories from the early Bronze Age, like the Epic of Gilgamesh from Sumer in Mesopotamia, what is now Iraq. Gilgamesh, after the death of his friend Aikido, he wanted more than anything to become immortal. So he went on a quest. He met another guy. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. It's written here. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, that guy lived for a very, very long time. He was immortal. He lived through the flood. So he told Gilgamesh the story of the flood. And in addition for that, Gilgamesh was trying to get from him how to become immortal. That guy put Gilgamesh to a few questions and a few quests. Eventually, he told him that he can find immortality in one specific plant at the bottom of the sea. Gilgamesh tied a very heavy rock and went and got that plant, brought it up. But that plant was stolen by a serpent, and then Gilgamesh failed to become immortal. Greek mythology, of course, all the god and the demigods and the half god and maybe even quarter god, not necessarily, were immortal. There was a type of food, ambrosia, that if you ate it, you become younger and had a life extension. A lot of people today, later we're going to talk about people who resist trying to fight old age, but a lot of people of that group are referring to tetanus It's a story about someone who married Eos, one of the nymph, and uh, Eos asks Zeus to grant Titanus eternal life. Zeus, of course, gave her wishes, and Titanus became immortal. But since she forgot to ask eternal youth, he became older, and he just was older and older and older, and kept alive, stayed alive, and very, very old, in pain and suffering. So a lot of people who resist the fighting old age and the rejuvenation treatments believe that extending of life extending life means we're going to have a very, very old people that suffer, are in pain, are just artificially kept in life. So that's not the idea of eternal life. Eternal life means a better health span, making people younger. So somebody who is 50 or 100 can live like somebody who is 25 in good health. So that's not the case, but that's the story with a moral from the Greek mythology. Fountain of Youth stories started from the 5th century BC, and the Crusaders still talking and still searching for the Fountain of Youth. That's a fountain that if you drink from it, the water from the fountain, you can become younger again. And even in the time of exploration in the 16th century, conquistador was trying to find the Fountain of Youth in the Caribbean and even in Florida and in Mexico. So this story survived for quite a long time. It also appeared later in the Pirate of the Caribbean. And the whole idea of religion is basically what I believe is, not the whole idea of religion, but a lot of it is people that are afraid of dying, afraid of mortality. They want to believe that once they die, something still remains. So this is where we have the concept of soul. It exists in all major religion, in Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, even ancient Egyptian religion, with the Egyptian gods, and Greek religion, Hellenism. The belief is that once a person dies, his soul continues to exist with his memories and his consciousness and its true self, and that soul either go to another place like heaven or hell or to the abyss underground. It's going to be someplace, either a good place or a bad place, depends on how good a person had been during his life. And in some cases, there is reincarnation, that soul is being born in somebody else. The Druze have that, and also Hinduism has this concept. So that means that during the time of antiquity, the bottom line is that people believe in longevity, believe in eternal life, and believe in eternal youth. And this is something that humans, a lot of humans, inspire to do. What do we have in modern time? In modern time, we have a few stories, TV series, movies, books, that show that even modern science fiction writers and fantasy writers are still inspired to live forever or live for a very long time. This is part of human desire, or a lot of humans, not all humans. So we have The World at the End of Time, but Frederick Paul. Larry Niven, Known Universe, he wrote a number of books about the tree of life. It's some kind of plant or tree that if you eat it, I think something look like a potato, I don't remember, I read those many years ago, then humans, if they eat it at a certain age, they become a pack. That creature can live for a very, very long time and function. Of course, it has all kind of mental disorders. He wants to protect his descendants and he's willing to kill other people and other pack. But there was, I believe, Larry never had a desire to live for a very, very long time. Alter Carbon is talking about the future where bodies are grown in a laboratory and people who can afford it, especially rich people, can just transfer themselves to a new body and continue with their life. Highlander is more on the border between science fiction and fantasy. It's a famous movie from or series of movies. The first one, of course, was the best. Talked about someone who lived in Highland during the 15th or 16th century in Scotland, and he didn't die. The whole family died, but there was a group of immortal people who goes around and try to kill each other, and the only way to kill them is by decapitate them, cut the head. Interview with a Vampire is another famous movie that talked about people who live for very long times, very long time as vampires. Mummy, that based on Egyptian mythology, that people who went through a specific process came back to life even thousands of years later. It was a funny horror movie. Pirate of the Caribbean on Strange Tides, it plays again on the concept of the fountain of youth. So there it is. We know that in ancient time, people want to live for a very long time and have become younger than, and even in modern times, science fiction writers and series saw that this is something that people are inspired to do. Why aging is stress? And one is based in extending lifespan and health span. Most deaths and suffering, if you can look at the data from the US in millions of deaths, almost all of deaths are related to health-related disease, like cancer, cardiovascular disease, which is heart attacks and strokes, respiratory disease, diabetes, blood pressures, dementia. All of these are diseases that only happen to people, primarily happen to people in old age. I think cancer, for example, there are some very small number of cases of cancer for young people or kids, but the vast majority of people don't get cancer until they are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then people start to get cancer and die. So recently, the US government decided to spend quite a lot, a few $1 billion in cancer research in order to be able to cure maybe 1/3 additional cases of cancer. That's a huge investment. Also, a lot of investment going to cardiovascular researchers, diabetes. But imagine that if some of the money that's going to Alzheimer and cancer and cardiovascular, some of the money would have gone to research biological youth or anti-aging, or the research on how to make people live longer, healthier life, like make people younger, basically, then younger people don't then cancer. So 99, maybe 98% of all cancer cases don't happen just because people become younger again. So this is something that could really reduce death cases, reduce the number of people who die per year, and increase health and increase life expectancy. That's not exactly immortality. People, even if we can be young forever, people could still get some rare disease, then we need to know how to treat them. People could still die of car accidents or suicide or wars, etc., things that are not related to disease. And some diseases are not related to old age. But again, the vast majority of diseases happens to old people, and that's how people die eventually. So do we have a chance of actually achieving something close to immortality or a very long life expectancy as young and healthy people, young biologically? This is something that Aubrey de Grey came up with in 2004, a concept called longevity escape velocity. The idea, if you look here on the graph, is that right now we are here. People live until a certain age, and once we become older, we are more prone to get more and more disease. Eventually, some catastrophe happen to our body and we die. If we have some life expectancy, but still don't reach longevity escape velocity, then we can extend life by maybe 5 years, 10 years, but then we're done. We die as well. But if you look at the graph above, some way, maybe it's easy to extend life, some treatments, by maybe 10 or 20 years. So we cannot solve all the problem. Aging is a very, very complex issue, and we don't know how to fix all the problems to make people young completely again, but maybe we can fix a few issues like diabetes or epidemic. There are some treatments that perhaps can increase life expectancy by something like 20 years. So if people who are today in their 50s or 60s or 70s can suddenly become a little bit younger and get an extra 20 years, that gives science, medical science, more time to develop the next level of treatments that is harder to fix. And once they fix the more harder treatment that they don't need to fix right away or in the next 20 years, but they have now 40 or 50 years to fix the harder thing, then the guy that have, or the girl that have the life expectancy increased can reach a point where the treatment is over, the person become older girl, and it's about to die, but then there is a new treatment that increase the life expectancy by an additional 20 years. And then the life expectancy can perhaps increase by more. So every time we are not curing aging forever and give them mortality, we just have some kind of treatment that can extend life by a few more years. But during this few years, medical science continue to advance, new treatments are continue to be developed, and then we can increase life by more and more and more. So that's what Aubrey de Grey means when he said longevity escape velocity. So people, let's say people who are 50 today, and let's say there is a treatment in 20 years that can extend life by another 20 years. So when they are 70, they will get a treatment, they will be very, very close to death, but then they will manage to live an additional 20 years, and in those 20 years, there may be new treatments that then give them another 20 years, another 30 years, etc., etc., etc. And eventually they will become young virtually for a very, very long time, maybe forever. So people who are just now on the verge, that's this line, locality except velocity, in the nick of time, until just about to die, and then they can extend your life, but just enough for the next treatment to cure you. But let's say if you are not in your 50s and you are in your 30s or your 20s, then you are in this situation, you'll get older, and this treatment will come when you are 40 or 50. So you're not in a very bad shape yet. And then you can live for a very long time. And people who just born right now, and assuming the medical science will progress very, very fast on this topic on life extension, then yeah, you just live very healthy for the entire life. You're not at risk at all from dying from old age diseases. Now, next topic is why some people are against life extension. First of all, there is a matter of regulation and government definition and medical science definition. The definition of a disease is something that is rare, that happened to a few people, and then they need to, it's not normal, so it needs to be cured. So let's say somebody get COVID, most people don't have COVID, but I don't know, a few millions out of a population of 8 billion get, okay, so this is a disease. And that's diabetes. And it's a very common disease, but still it's not happened to everyone. It's pretty rare, and not pretty rare, but it's not the majority. It's under 50% have diabetes. So it's not normal. And since it's not normal, it's a disease. And once it's a disease, then governments give grants, research facilities, spend money and investments. Company invest in order to find cure for the disease. But what happened to old age? If old age would have happened to a small number of people and most people wouldn't age, then that's definitely going to be identified as a disease. Why? Because we become weaker, we will become prone to all kinds of side effects. We cannot run as fast, we get more diseases, and eventually we die. So that's a fatal, terrible disease that causes a lot of suffering. The reason it's not called of disease, it's normal, it happened to everyone. So medical science and governments don't identify this as a disease. And since they don't identify it as disease, it gets less budget, less grants, etc., etc., etc. Another argument against curing old age and rejuvenation treatments is the old dictator argument. Elon Musk is very talk about that. He has some old people, politician who oppose him. And he had a few tweets and he spoke in a few interviews why I think it's better for our society and our civilization that people will die. I think it's a bad idea to let old people become younger again and stay in power. Also, people will not get inheritance, people will not get jobs, new jobs, and unless the existing job nobody will take because the old people will just stay in their job forever. So you can have a president or a dictator for life, and if he's not dying, if Putin is not dying at 80, then he can live to the age of 300, 400, 1000. Maybe it's not so good for Russia. It is an argument. I think it should be solved not by causing death to billions of people and suffering to all those people and their families, but through some regulation and maybe, I don't know, assassin or kill a really, really bad, destructive dictator. If it's in a democracy, put a term limit on somebody in a political office, so somebody cannot be in Congress for 40, 50, 70 years. It will have to retire after a certain time, like presidents do in the US. So that's the old age, old dictator argument. Overpopulation is another argument. A lot of people believe that there are too many people on this planet and it causes a constraint on our environment and our resources, and we need fewer people. So if you cure old age and people will become younger again and will not die, then this will increase the population on this planet. There are also a lot of argument against this. There is a big decline right now in fertility rate, and the UN and other organizations think that in a few decades, the population will start to shrink. Also, we know that in a lot of Western countries and Eastern and Asian countries, population are going to get older as we go. So we want old people to be able to function, and the economy is growing. We're able to grow more food, more mine for more, get more resources, have more clean energy, clean resources, recycling. So overpopulation is not really a big problem, but it is, a lot of people believe it is a big problem, and therefore they are against rejuvenation treatments that prevent people from dying because they want people to die. And some people that I spoke with think that old age is something graceful, something that people enjoy. I personally don't think so. I think it's terrible. It's a lot of suffering, a lot of limitation. But some people think this is graceful and death indesirable. Some of it related to believe in the religion, that after you die, your soul will go to someplace better. So why resist death if it's something good that will, but anyway, those are political and cultural resistance. Now, assume that we, or people who watch this, some of the people who watch this video think that rejuvenation treatments, anti-aging is something that is desirable. Here are some of the things that you can do. First of all, you want to reach that point of longevity escape velocity. So assuming there are still some companies and some organizations that are developing rejuvenation treatments, you want to make sure you are as healthy as possible in order to live those extra years. So when those treatments will eventually become available, you'll still be alive to take them. So how to improve your health? You want to sleep well, you want to reduce stress, exercise, healthy diet, get some supplement, and go to a regular examination with your doctor to make sure that you don't have any diseases, because if you do that, get diseases, early detection means you are more likely to be cured or get a better treatment. So don't get sick, and try to live for as long as possible. Vote for political parties and politicians that see old aging as a disease. If we can get the political politician and regulators to change the definition of a disease that will include aging, even though this is something that is normal, it is basically a very terrible disease. It's just not defined as a disease because it happened to everyone. Because it happened to more than 50.1% of the population. So it's normal, it's happened to everyone or almost everyone. But if we can change that, then we can see rejuvenation treatments or Healthspan treatment or treatment to make people younger compete on budget and grants with other investments for other diseases. Of course, I'm not saying that we should not invest in Alzheimer or cancer. We should, especially because cancer sometimes kids can get it, but at least it should be compete on even ground with diseases, and also company will invest more in rejuvenation treatments if they know that this is defined as a disease by regulators and government. It will be easier to get grant, etc., etc., etc. Other things you can do is invest in biotech companies that develop lifespan researchers. You can get a degree and work in such companies in order to advance the science and advance the treatment and advance the development of such treatments. You can engage in crafting public opinion. You can become a writer, a blogger, talk to people online, try to convince them that rejuvenation treatment is something good, something that is desirable, something that it's the best bang for the buck if you want to cure cancer and Alzheimer and cardiovascular diseases, etc., diabetes. And then you can also donate to non-for-profit organizations that are fighting aging. And to conclude, here are some organizations that are fighting old age. It's not an old organization that exists, but some of them, you're going to stop. You can pause the video and go and try to search those online, perhaps engage them, contribute to them, maybe get a grant from them, something to give grant if you do a research. And here is the two pictures from one such research of two mice that one got treatment and the other didn't. And we can see that mostly supplements, the different supplements in the experiments. And you can see that the mice that got the anti-aging treatments looks indeed younger than twin brother of the same mouse that didn't get the same treatments. So in conclusion, I'll do the traditional Vulcan: live long and prosper. Even Star Trek believed in live longer. Thank you. And I'm going to put a link if you want to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. If you want, you can buy some of the books or contribute in other way to the channel to make sure I will create more content for this channel. So thank you very much and see you next time.